Man, what? Hold on. Look at the alignment there. You can tell it's been a while since I've done this show. What's up, Montel Allen? I got us
It's
wrong
all
five
good, man.
seconds after we start, and we may have Club
It's
Shay
all
Shay
good.
watching. Yeah, you know what?
Hey, man, shout out to Shannon Sharp, man. He's doing some really good things. I just watched his recent interview with who do you have on there? Yeah, Chad
Yeah, Marshawn.
Ochocinco
He
on
got
there,
Marshawn. So don't say anything about
and
it
then
because
Marshawn Lynch.
I'm gonna watch it tonight. So don't give
Yeah,
it away because I
yeah.
know
The
it's hot.
Marshawn Lynch one was cool too. He's done two recent really great interviews, man. I mean, Club Shay Shay, he got it down packed, man. We're very proud of that guy. And look at everything he's overcome. You know, leaving Skip Bayless, now going to First Take. So brother's doing it big, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to Shannon.
Yeah, and you know, Shay, don't be afraid. You know, just little glitches here at the beginning, but we still good for Shay Media. So return that tweet, return that message.
Yes, sir.
I see senior in the building. Appreciate you for being here, sir. Show can officially begin. Uh, we don't have a ton of stories this week. And that could be a good thing, right? Because as you know, Team No Sleep, social impact of sport. It's nice to have a quiet week. And we're not going to get into a whole bunch of what's going on with the NFL and how they react. Maybe we will, because I just brought it up. And see, I didn't even hit you with this yet. The way the NFL is reacting to, I'll just say, celebrity presences at games and wondering if that's a distraction, right? So I'm going to put that out there. And you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say anybody's name just yet, but again, how the NFL is reacting to celebrity presences at games, and is that a distraction? Because other sports leagues, NBA, MLB, even soccer, they seem to know how to deal with that. But the NFL is tripping right now. So we're going to get into that. We may have a guest come on as well to talk about one story that we want to get into, but Mato, talk to me a little bit about what's going on. I see you rocking the San Diego Strike Force shirt. What's going on in San Diego in your neck of the woods, inside football and all things of that nature?
Oh, everything in San Diego's going great. You know, shout out to the Aztecs and all the high schools that are playing football. Things are going really well in San Diego, man, and in LA County and Riverside County. I think we're starting to get in the midst of the middle of the season for high school football, which is really great. But what that comes with is now starting the recruiting season starting. So, you know, a whole different ball game. It's crazy what the NCAA just announced with the NIL and the portal. The portal now you can only stand there for 45 days now. If you're not within, you only have 10 days to retract your pool if you want to transfer school. So that's going to have a really long effect on high school kids. And also now they alleviated the number. Before you can only get into 25 kids into your program, period, a year. Now that number is unlimited. You can get as many as long as you reach your you know, your 85 to 100 kids on college squad. So really bad for high school kids, man. I feel bad for them, but that's just the way of the game is. I was talking to somebody the other day. College football is now professional football, whether you want to believe it or not. It's professional football in an amateur setting. That's all it is.
So are you still having?
NCAA,
I gonna say, are you still having those conversations with the young players? Right? Are you still doing some of that mentoring, some of that coaching, right? And getting some of those young minds ready for that next level?
Yeah, I've been talking to kids. I got a presentation, I believe, at Hoover High School. They're still waiting to book me, and I'm being booked at schools to come talk about the athletics. I think people don't understand the recruiting process has drastically changed within the last year. The portal has really destroyed high school football from a perspective like these kids are going to get an opportunity to play at the next level. I think Deion said it best in his interview on 60 Minutes. We're only taking 5. Where it used to be they're taking 12.
Yeah.
12 to 15 kids. Now they're only taking 5 high school kids. So you got to imagine that you times 125. You know, they're only taking 600 high school seniors are going to be playing Division I football next year, roughly, plus or minus. You know, where it used to be thousands of high school kids were going to get the opportunity to play collegiate football at the Division I level. That number is now shrunk drastically, and rightfully so. I mean, from a business model, it makes perfectly sense. You go get somebody that's been in the portal, they got experience. You know, they played before, they understand time management, they understand how to work within the college setting instead of taking a fresh person out of high school and teaching them everything. You know, especially those tweener kids, you know, the kids that haven't quite developed or aren't just quite there yet, they just need that year developed. I think parents and kids need to understand the room for development is over when it comes to Division I football. And it's going to soonly trickle down to Division II and so on and so on. Because remember, if you're Division I and you go into the portal and you don't get picked up, you're going to go right down to Division II. If you're Division II, you're going to go down to Division III, and somewhere in between, they're going to go all NAIA. So, and other kids think JC is an option. Junior college is an option. I'm going to go there, get myself redeveloped, try to get myself back out there. But that's a hard sell. That's a really hard sell and a really hard way to go, because when you go to JC, one, do they actively get you out? Two, do you run the risk that you have to have 60 transferable units? Three, hopefully you don't get hurt. Four, you're not acclimated to a program. Five, in my opinion only, and I'll share this opinion, I don't believe junior colleges football, at least in the state of California, will be around for very much longer. It just doesn't make business sense if we're talking about business. And what I mean by that is,
Yeah, I was gonna say, go into that a little bit. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's like when the cost of playing football, the cost of playing football, uniforms, equipment, travel, and all that, when that becomes more expensive than the actual kids playing football, and it's not generating any money, then you're going to start to look at cutting those programs. A la Azusa Pacific, a la Whittier, a la Occidental. And all the Division IIs before that, the Humboldt stage, Chico stage, all them. When they figured, when they said that football costs more than it's making, it's only makes logical business sense to say, we need to get rid of it. Now, you can talk about the humanity prospect of it. Like, hey, we want to do it because it attracts, men of color and all that stuff, and that's all great. But when it comes down to dollars and cents, for junior colleges, once they figure out it doesn't make sense to have that type of business in their school, then I think they'll start eliminating, unfortunately.
Wow. Man. Fine arts are going away. Band is going away. Wood shop, metal shop, now we're taking away what historically has been kind of the main moneymaker at these institutions. Now you're talking about taking away, not just talking about taking away sports, you're talking about taking away the main sport, right? The main thing, right?
Well, it's a moneymaker, but if it doesn't make more money than it costs, then it's at a loss, right?
You.
So you got to think ADs and them are going to look at it from a financial standpoint. They're not looking at it from a humanity standpoint or even what's right or wrong. They're not looking from that. They're not looking at the standpoint. If they look at, they say, we got to, we're going to have to do evaluation of all of athletics, and we need to figure out what we're going to have, what we're going to keep, and what we're going to cut, what costs and what doesn't cost, right? So basketball, you only need 15 guys to get them on the bus, right, to go, or get them on a little van, a passenger van, and they go. And that's only when you go away, you're only going to pay for at maximum 8 rooms, right, when you travel, and then you play the game. Well, football, you remember you have to travel at least with 55 people. That's not including the coaching staff. So you travel with 55 young men, let's say an 8-man traveling staff. So now that's at least, if you divide that in half, 60 rooms, that's 30 rooms right off the bat. Not to mention you got to rent a big bus, and if you're, usually if teams aren't successful or aren't winning right off the bat, you don't get a lot of fanfare. So there's no money being generated. So it's all at a loss at that point, right? When schools realize it's a loss, and it's a loss for over a period of time, it's like, all right, maybe we need to consider cutting. And I think that's where, and I think that's where junior colleges are going to start to figure out really, really soon. Is it worth the cost of keeping the program? And remember, even though it gives jobs and it gives all these things, it's only 100 to 115 faces at the university. Like, can we absorb? Junior colleges are costing them money to go there, so they're not really making any money off admissions. And then you're spending all this money to play football. It's going to be like, all right, we're going to weigh which one do we want to have. Do we want to keep football? Do we want to get rid of it? And I'm an advocate of keeping football. I really hope they keep it because I think it's such a dynamic. But the math just makes sense, right? The math, it doesn't make sense to keep it if you don't have to. Unfortunately. So,
man,
and let's be real. I'm a believer in the future. I don't even know if there will be high school football. Because it's going to come down to the same kind of money.
But California, California. Okay, because I think if you start talking about as you matriculate towards the East Coast, right? You start talking about high school football in
East
Texas,
Coast and Midwest and the South.
Them could be
they understand, but also in those regions, they generate money.
Truth.
Texas builds stadiums for high school kids because they generate money. They sell out.
Yeah.
They make so much money, it's okay. California doesn't
they got bigger stadium than some of our college campuses around here too. So that's truth. Yeah.
So even high school championships games don't sell out. In California, we don't sell them out. Texas is a different ballgame. They sell out. That's why they can afford to build these new stadiums and give coaches bigger contracts. At our level, the high school, it doesn't do that. So again, when it comes to a situation where they can say, hey, the cost of having the sport is more than us putting the sport on, then at that point it's an economic decision. Do we keep it or don't we? And you got to think with high school football, building the field, maintaining the field, buying new equipment, paying for insurance, spending on travel, and so on and so on. And CIF, I think, is doing a pretty good job of keeping it there now and doing a pretty good job trying to keep everything afloat. But over time, as we've seen, things that we get used to go away. We used to have band for 50 years before they cut it.
Yeah.
We used to have all these other things, after school programs for 70 years before they cut it. What makes sports any different? And the thing is, the popularity of club sports is growing and growing more and more. So why don't you just say you go play club and we're going to get rid of it here at the high school? Because it doesn't make economic sense. I mean, and these are just my perspective, people. I don't have any really strong merit to prove that. I'm just doing the math in my head and understanding that, the longevity of these things, if there's no money being generated, and the way we are about the bottom line, then there's no need to keep it.
Well, this is what we can do, though. We can Monday morning quarterback this and just ask that hard question and say, what if something like that does happen, right? I mean, I can only imagine what the domino effect is if we take away sports and primarily football at the high school level in California. There's going to be a huge domino effect in terms of what are these kids going to do, what the economic side, the mental health, mental awareness. I mean, again, something to do for these kids. I mean, you got a 200-pound guy who was a linebacker who now is being asked to go play pickleball or whatever. Again, not making fun of pickleball, but I'm just saying, right? You got to make some choices and some changes now.
You just provide them without an opportunity to play. You got to go play club. I think those clubs will exist. Clubs will kind of buy into it and take up the slack, just like Pop Warner does for you. I think clubs will jump in and take up the slack. I think you got to think, if you cut football from high school football, look at look at the savings you have. Field upkeep. You don't have to buy equipment. You don't have to buy uniforms anymore. You don't have to pay for insurance. You don't have to pay for travel. You don't have to pay for coaching staff. You don't have to pay for all these things. And we already know schools are already on a budget as it is, right? So if you eliminate those thousands and thousands of dollars right there from your program, you offshore the equipment so you can sell out and make some of your money back. You don't have to pay for any of those other things, and just say, hey, we can make money by utilizing and making these clubs rent the field. We don't have to pay anything, we'll just receive. Business, I mean, that's business. Now, is it ethically wrong in my opinion? Absolutely. But is it wrong? Is it just something we're just so used to having that we're saying, hey, we can take it for granted, it's always going to be there? I think those are the days we got to be leery of and be aware of that. You can't take stuff for granted no more at the high school level or at the collegiate level anymore. We're seeing these past couple of years, they've closed down colleges and college football programs based on that same merit. The money, the dollars aren't adding up for them to be able to sustain.
I rarely get flabbergasted or I rarely get silent. But again, I guess maybe I read into stories a little bit more, right? Because, I mean, you could be dropping a bomb right here in terms of, again, what the ramifications are, right? If it costs more than it earns, costs more than there's actually, if the liabilities are higher than the assets, then this whole slew of academical escape, this whole thing, this whole athletic piece could be gone rather quickly. And I just, I think about obviously the athletes and the kids that are vested in, and I think about the parents, think about think about this domino effect of what, unfortunately, the negative sides that could happen. Now, before you get into that, I do want to bring on our guest because I think Carlos will have some insight into this as well, because as I was telling you ahead of time, and I'll let him do a full introduction, he dives and delves into kind of that psyche of how folks, especially men, young men, think, should think, react, and act. And, again, I just wonder again, if I was to go over to Vanden High School in Fairfield, California, and tell that entire JV varsity team in football, y'all, we through. After tonight's game, they're cutting the program. They're going to pull up the field and they're going to turn it into volleyball fields. Somebody got to go talk to them kids. All right.
I mean,
Come on. Well,
I,
okay. Hold on.
we'll dive in
Hold on
there, but
right
I
there.
mean, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, hold on right there.
Let's
Hey,
bring him on.
let me bring this man in. Carlo, what? Oh, is he still online? Did he log off? He logged off, didn't he? Man, come back into the building. Ladies and gentlemen, you
There
got
he is.
the man is on. You got too many buttons over there. But the set is looking hot. Goodness gracious. Look at he got
Hey,
the Chris, he got the no, not the Chris, he got the Halloween lights on and
what? No, man,
well,
I'm in between clients right now, and I had to
my-
jump on for a second.
what?
Okay.
Okay. Then let me stop talking. Let me just be quiet and let me just let you introduce yourself to the Team No Sleep family.
Well,
And
hey,
tell
man,
them
what
who
you
you
guys
are.
are talking about right now, I mean, you're just lighting me up right now. I mean, what I'm hearing is it breaks my heart,
Yeah.
because what you were saying right now, James, it's like these young men, what are we doing, man? I mean, there's, I hear the business side of it because you guys are really, this is, there is an absolute business side of it. But when we talk about the humanities side of it, like I think you guys were talking about, you can't put a price on what these young men are going to be missing out on. I mean, you guys know what team sports is
Yeah.
like. We know what that. I mean, I played team sports most of my life. There's so much that we gain from that, right? And man, there's from role models to learning how to deal with discomfort, learning how to deal with rejection, learning how do you deal with it when a coach, takes you out of the game? How are you going to recover from that? How do you respond to that? Like young men are learning how to deal with things that they're going to have to deal with in life. And so much of that they get from team sports. So much of that they get from football.
Yeah.
I mean, football.
So come in with your not diagnosis necessarily, but from your professional opinion and from your vantage point. First, give the folks the 35,000 foot level of who it is that you are and what it is that you do. But then kind of
I know, but you guys are lighting me up, man. That's why I just came in and
right.
sorry about
That question that I asked, right? Now you got to have that conversation with these young men. How are someone like in your seat going to have that conversation with these young men about what you thought was going to be your next step to your destiny? Because everybody thinks they're going to make it to the next level. What's that conversation that you would initiate with these folks? And again, if you don't mind telling folks who it is that you are.
Yeah, well, my name's Carlos Martinez. I'm as you can see, I'm in my office right now because I'm in between clients, but I'm like, I got to get on this before my next client comes in. And by the way, I'm right here in Pasadena, man. So this is where my operation is. That's not a fake set. That's my comfortable office. And as a counseling office needs to be comfortable, right? So and it needs to feel like home. So that's where I'm at right now. It'll be a late night with clients as it usually is, but I work a lot with on behalf of men. I'm an advocate for men, especially these days. You guys, there are a lot of issues that men are facing, and that's kind of what I feel like I've been called to. I work with a lot of guys, not only men. Obviously, a lot of my clients are women as well. But over the years, I have really kind of come face to face with men in general struggling more and more in their identity. They're not doing a lot of the things that kind of make us, I don't know, the core desires for us as men, we're not doing as much anymore. And this is a good example. This is why I wanted to call in, because a good example of that is, sports is a big part of what touches our core identity as men. The competitiveness, that is a big part of us. The adventure is a big part of us. I mean, playing rough as boys is something that we're supposed to do as little boys, playing rough, with dad playing rough. And we don't do that.
Yeah.
We're missing out, man, I think, on a lot of our core identity. So this is what I would say. My work with men is to lead them away from passivity, which a lot of men are struggling with today, young men, and embrace responsibility. And that's unfortunately today, a lot of young men are embracing passivity, and I'm seeing it blow marriages up, all of that. And I'm seeing them reject responsibility. And so that's kind of like, man, sports really does help a lot of the problem today. That's why I love I love what sports does to young
Yeah.
men. You know, it's interesting when you go to, I do a lot of work in Bogota in Colombia,
Hmm.
and what you see a lot of there with young men, they don't have as much of a passive issue as men do here. You know why? Because if you're a little boy, when you're born with a soccer ball. That's what you're born with, and you're gonna play. It's built into your culture. And what do you learn in soccer? It's the stuff, man. It's the team sport. It's the mentorship. It's the learning how to deal with discomfort. It's all of that, right? And so I think it's sad to hear that these kinds of things are happening in colleges and junior colleges and potentially high school. The humanities part
it's
of it,
hard to
you
fathom,
can't put a
right?
price
I
on.
mean, see, Montel just came and just dropped one on us. It's hard to fathom that again, just because again, I would say the way he and I grew up, right? I was huge in baseball, so I could only, man, I'd pass out if baseball wasn't around, and just to hear the possibility of football going away at the high school level, possibly at the collegiate level in California, supposedly one of the richest states one of the richest economies
countries
on the planet, right?
In the
One of
country,
the
yeah.
richest economies on the planet. So that
In
just
most
doesn't
countries,
sound
yeah.
right coming out of our mouths. But let's do this. I want to table this discussion because I want to be cognizant of your time, Carlos, just in case you have to jump. And we want to get into this other story that Montel and I have talked about before, but there's been some updates on it, and you actually had talked about some interest in at least having this conversation. And it's about Trevor Bauer.
Oh man,
pitcher for the Dodgers. Well, it used to be the pitcher for the Dodgers. No longer pitcher
used
for the Dodgers.
Used to be.
Right?
Right?
There was the incidents, allegations of sexual assault, allegations of harassment, all those things, right? And you can read the story. I'll put the link to everything in the description so you can look at past stories that we've talked about as well. Long story short, coming out now that the young lady, and the young lady's name has been identified. I may say her name. I don't know. Lindsay Hill. Okay.
Lindsay Hill. Yeah.
Her name is out there right now. Her lawyer said her name, and he's obviously said her name as well in the video that he produced a couple of days ago. But comes to find out that she intentionally was setting him up. Just saying. There's video proof. There's audio proof. There's textual proof. And there's even a concern of, and Montel knows I hate using this word, allegedly, Lindsay's lawyers were probably involved in this whole setup of Trevor Bauer is now worth $51 million. Go get the bag, go get the money, go do what you got to do. It's all, I'm not making it up. Y'all know I'm not that smart. Again, I will put the link to this video that Trevor put out on his Twitter feed with documentation, video documentation, and textual documentation. I want to ask you first, Montel, briefly, and then we'll go into Carlos. Again, we talked about this before. What is your thoughts when, again, we were concerned about this story because, man, here it goes again. Looks like another prominent athlete being taken down. If he did something wrong, he did something wrong. It needs to be dealt with. But it comes to find out, the man was getting set up.
I think that's just the way times are nowadays, right? Everyone wants to they'll set you up. They'll do anything to get money. Whether they set you up, whether they put you in uncomfortable situations, whether situations where they can bribe you or they can extort you. Extort you for whatever you are. And athletes are a prime target. We talk about it with the NIL and everything. I think it's going to happen at that level pretty soon, at the collegiate level. These are situations where you get extorted. I'm glad he stuck to his guns, man. I mean, kudos to him that he stuck to his guns. He kept telling everybody he wasn't guilty. He dealt with the consequences, and now he has to. Now, why aren't there criminal charges against her and her team? Like there should be something legal that prevents these people from doing it. So that's
That's the question now, right? Again, man, you're gonna come at me like this for my cash, and because you just have ill will towards me, and if your legal team knew about this, again, allegedly, but again, stars are lining up here. Carlos, let me get your thoughts again, just kind of on the
side. Yeah, absolutely. And I want to make sure it's Montel, right? It's Montel.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to call you MC Search, man. You look like MC Search to me. I'm sorry. I mean,
go get one of your hats. Hey, Carlos, go get one of the hats, brother. Hey, when he put the hat on too, see, watch this dude right here. Oh my. This man is the coolest kid on campus right there, boy.
I remember seeing him third base in concert, man. So you look like MC Church, but go ahead, go
Yeah,
do your
see,
thing. Go
he
ahead.
had the hat right there to close
Montel,
too.
I'm just saying, man, you are like an encyclopedia, man. I mean, it's unbelievable the information you have. When I've listened to you, I learn a lot as you're talking. But
Appreciate it.
um, I'm glad he stuck to his guns too, man. But
Yeah.
it's like this is part of what I was talking about. The numbers of men who are choosing to stay single today are unbelievable, and they have spiked over the last 5 years.
Hmm.
Like they've gone crazy. It's because of this stuff we're seeing right now. You know, and it's I hope that, I mean, obviously he tried to sue her. They, agreed to, to move on, but only so that he can now talk about it, which was, I think, a smart
Right.
move, because
Mhm.
that's the best thing. He's got to get this out. More men. I mean, I followed the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case I mean, I followed it really closely. And I know people who were even connected to that case, some clinicians who were connected to that case. And we processed through that together. And we knew immediately, because we work with people who have those kinds of issues, meaning we work with people who are narcissists, legit narcissists, and personality, issues. And we knew Amber immediately, man. We could see right through it. And this was another situation that, what happened if he didn't have those texts? What happened if he didn't have those videos? What would have happened? I mean, this guy's, everything would have been ruined. And I mean, he's still kind of coming back
He
from
would
it, but
be
it's
under
just
the jail if he didn't have those texts and those videos and
absolutely,
what he's showing right now, folks. What I'm showing right now is
absolutely.
actually
But
the video that he posted.
we're talking about a person.
Yep.
We're talking about a person that has the resources to do that. He's financially set, so he can do some things. I mean, he's gonna be okay. He'll
Yeah.
figure this out. I'm talking about
Yeah.
the kid that doesn't have the resources, or the young man that doesn't have the resources and didn't save all those texts. And
Okay. Yeah.
though this premise right here is showing you that there are women out there that are targeting you to do these evil things.
How about the guy at
to
USC?
extort
Remember
you.
that guy at USC? The guy at USC a few years ago?
Which
That
one?
young kid? That young kid. He wasn't an athlete. This was just a student at USC.
Mhm.
And that's what happened to him. They got the video of the girl leaving with him from the bar, and they expelled him from USC until
Wow.
after they saw the video.
Yeah.
Same
Well,
thing. Like, you're right. He didn't have the money but thank
Yeah.
God he had the video, right?
But
But it
that's
could
what I'm
happen to
saying.
anybody.
We came to a situation now that we have to, one, watch the people we're with, right? The women or whoever you're with, the other
Yep.
person you're with. And then two, it's almost like you got to get a video consent and videotape whatever you're doing with this person, because you don't even know what's gonna happen. And
I
my thing
know.
is, when this does happen, and situations like this does occur, I mean, let's be honest with you. My son's in college. He could be charged with rape.
That's right.
It could have been
That's right.
consensual. Could have been any situation. This
Yep.
A young lady could cry wolf all she
Yep.
wants, but she doesn't either want to be in trouble with her parents, or she wants to get him for something because he has a little bit of money, NIL money, or
Yep.
whatever the situation. She can cry and rape, and my son's not only, even if he's innocent and he's found innocent at the end of the day, reputation is damaged, his relationships are damaged, and you're
Absolutely.
still perceived as the person that raped someone,
Yeah.
regardless of innocent or not. Because
Yeah.
they twist and say, oh, well, he sexually assaulted her, or he,
Yeah.
something happened. So on the plight of
Yeah.
a young man, especially young men of color, it's almost like, hey, it's all set up. The game is set up. We're just waiting for you to finish.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
it
totally.
is right there.
Totally.
So
What you're dealing with now is women, especially from the Me Too movement, women unfortunately have gone too far, like some men have gone too far, right? And we're talking about a red pill community where men and women have gone red pill, meaning their aim in life, is just to get as much body count as possible, to manipulate as much as possible, to take advantage as much as possible, right? That's a really unhealthy community of men and women. And unfortunately, they're the ones who are causing all the problems.
Mhm.
It's not the other ones who, what I would call the purple pill community, right? These are the people that are more flexible, who have, who are curious, who have more understanding and compassion for the opposite sex. These are the people that they're not rigid, they're not. But the red pill is what you're seeing right now. These are red pill women who are doing this. The woman who did this to Trevor is a red pill woman. There's no question. That's what she's doing, and she's all about getting what's hers, right? You listen to those texts. I mean, it's creepy, man. When you listen to those texts, that she was talking to her friend, about, guess who's my next victim,
Yeah. Well,
and she.
I'm hearing you. I'm sorry, I'm hearing you. The thing that comes to my mind is the situation in San Diego State that just happened last year or 2 years ago with the kicker that got drafted by the Buffalo Bills.
Right.
He was not charged, but they alleged that he raped a girl at a party. Right.
Mm-hmm.
They said he raped a girl at a party. Mm-hmm. He lost his contract with the Buffalo Bills.
Right.
He lost his opportunity to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
He was scrutinized in the media, including us.
Yep.
We try not to say anything negative, but we kind of try to look at it from both lenses,
sure.
And so on and so on and so on. To come and find out, he was found innocent, and that's a real life situation that's there for a promising young man that's going. He's got $51 million, so he's going to have enough lawyers to get himself out and do whatever. This is a young man just trying to make it, trying to pursue his career in life, and he gets scammed by a young lady that said these things. And I'm wondering. You said it was like kind of like the red pill and all that good stuff, but I'm saying, where are these young ladies or these young people now all of a sudden feeling that's the way to come up and that's the way to get go chase the bag, is to manipulate and trap this young man who we think is perceivably going to make millions of dollars and make a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's a very powerful community of people, and we're talking about women at this point, because this is what we're talking about, who have found each other. Okay. And I'm just saying that I believe that there are some really good things that came out of the Me Too movement that are really important and powerful. But if you talk to feminists of the 70s, they will tell you that they don't agree with the women, the feminists today. And the reason why is because what they would say is, they hate men. We didn't hate men in the 70s. We just wanted equal rights. But today, the red pill movement is about taking advantage, body count. Oh, I look on YouTube, whatever podcast, all these podcasts that are around, talking to these women who are very toxic, and they're looking to get their bag. And you're right. I believe you. I think that there's a lot more of this ahead for men who are in high school and college. Not only these guys, who've got $51 million, but anybody. You know what I thought was interesting is, do you remember what happened to Kobe? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to tell you why Kobe is one of my heroes? I'll tell you, because of how he dealt with that stuff. Now, I get it. Stuff happened, man. But I saw a man take ownership, and I don't know how you do that now, but he took ownership. And what really, the reason why I respected that guy so much is because of what he did to heal his family. Okay. He took ownership, and I know some stuff behind the scenes that he did to bring this family back together. Because you remember, Vanessa was walking out. She took the ring off, man. She's done.
Yeah.
Something happened, and I know what. They got help, and Kobe took it like a man. He took ownership. He wasn't passive. He fought for it. And I mean, that guy turned out to be an amazing family man. That guy, right? I mean,
I empathize and I understand Kobe. But again, we're talking about multimillionaires that can kind of get the help and do the things they need to do. I'm more concerned about the average teen or the average
guy down the road,
student.
right? Yeah, the kid in the JC or the high school, in our neighborhood who gets caught up in a situation.
Yeah, their whole life ahead of them. Their whole life ahead of them.
Yeah. You're not ruining. I mean, you're not ruining somebody's life that is established. You're ruining somebody's life that hasn't even begun yet. And now you have this stigma about yourself. You have all these legal hurdles you may or may not have to overcome. You got a lot of things going on when you're young, and these things happen. And it's based on a lie. Someone lied, and there's no criminal act. This lady got paid. She got paid to shut up. not bring it up anymore.
That's
There's no
right.
criminal charge. I don't know if there's no criminal charges if he's going to charge it or if he has grounds to, but I'm saying they're lying on these men and they're ruining certain guys, certain people's lives. And there's no
Yep.
criminal thing to kind of even back up. That's the part that I think is more frustrating than anything. There's no
Okay.
accountability for her saying anything wrong. She
Yeah.
gets away with it.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
There
And I think
has
that's
to
sad.
be, and I agree, and I think that there has to be some more, I don't know if we'll ever see it, but there has to be some more stringent laws around this because we're extremely vulnerable. I know the women on their side, okay, you want to look at both sides, they're extremely vulnerable as well, right? And I think that's why you're seeing the movement starting to come at men in this way, and this is what I really think is I hear what you're saying, and like your frustration is, man, you can stop somebody's career from even starting, like they're
Mhm.
just starting out, and this could change the trajectory of the rest of their life, right, forever.
Yep.
And I think that they're, where we've always kind of seen this paradigm, right? I mean, this women, you don't question. If they say that something has happened, there's no question. You believe it, and I think there has to be some measures put in place. There needs to be more assessments put in place in order to protect men, especially young men, because they're targets as well. Here's the thing: I feel like I'm just so sad for a lot of men. I'm thinking of guys right now, and you guys can probably, you might even know some of these names, but there have been some young men in college over the last 5 years who've been accused of things where they have been found innocent. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I can remember some of those articles that have come by. And it seems like it's becoming more prevalent. And I think I connect that with this red pill movement, and I don't know if you guys keep up with the red pill movement, but it's been around for a long time. The Andrew Tates, the Andrew Tates of the world are on this side, okay, of the red pill. They're on the men's side of the red pill. But then you have Instagram models, OnlyFans models, who are on the other side of the red pill movement, on the female side of the red pill movement. And neither of them trust each other. They have zero trust for one another. None. And that's why these things are happening, I think, with why a lot of men of influence, a college athlete, high school athlete, these young women are listening, to these red pill influencers. And there's so much resentment. Listen, guys, I think young men now are becoming more and more fearful. I think I even heard Trevor even talk about something like this, like, man, I have to be ridiculous in the barriers that I have to put around me because I can get burned any moment by what you said, Montel, a person
Yeah.
just lying. They just have to lie.
Mhm.
And they'll get their bag. Right?
Yeah.
It's becoming increasingly frustrating to me to see men being marks like this, but I also see how they've contributed, you guys. They've contributed to it as well. It's not just their fault, the women, but men have contributed too because they've been red pilled as well in a lot of ways. Red pill for men about 15 years ago, men woke up. There were books about it. Wake up is what the book said, and they said, get them before they get you. That's what the red pill community is. Get them before they get you. And women caught on to it after Me Too, and now they're going after their bag. I think that's a big part of it, you guys. But something's got to change, man, because you cannot stop a man's life before it begins. I mean,
let's do this. Let's see if we can find some actionable actions right out of this. What's the moral of the story? Trevor.
Well, before that, James, explain that. I want to explain, like you said, the men are doing it first because that's an interesting statement you just said. You like men have been doing this for a while to women. Please elaborate a little bit more so our audience can understand what you mean by that.
Yeah, I think naturally, throughout history, men have always been more aggressive, and we've always dominated. Okay, we are the dominary of the of the genders. We generally are for the most part. Okay, you guys, I would say generally because we mostly are. And we've always had that power. I mean, it's men have created this country mostly. I'm going to keep saying that because of just the natural differences that we have. Now, here's the problem: is a lot of men have abused the power, and we have oppressed in a lot of ways women for a long time. And I'm just saying again, I'm going to go back to men in general have done that. And that is what I think again is look at the Harvey Weinsteins, et cetera. These guys that have gotten away with this stuff forever. I had a client years ago who worked in the entertainment community, and she was like, when all the Me Too movement started happening, she was like, I've been dealing with that for 20 years. I go over to so-and-so's house and he's half naked and he's expecting something. And I've been dealing with that harassment for 20 years. That's kind of what I'm talking about, and I'm going to say generally, because man, there's a lot of men who loving, caring, compassionate, understanding men who aren't like that. But I think that's just the natural way it's always been. Women, I think Me Too just gave them angry and bitter women got Me Too, and they went with it. And
that's
now
developed. You think that's developed? That's just kind of, I want to say, like predator attitude towards men that are, that they want to get back at, or basically get back at in some form or fashion.
Absolutely, Montel. It's a predator. That's what this woman was like with Trevor. She really did sound like a predator. That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
And has done it in the past. Well, I'll say and has done it in the past. And again, it's kind of was very methodical and had it laid out the plan. I guess what I wanted to bring it back to, though, again, if there were any actionable items out of this story, out of the Trevor Mauer story, out of, again, the guy and the girl at the local junior college or the high school or UC or whatever, how do we avoid these situations? I mean, again, we can't answer all the questions, but we can probably help guide folks prior to them getting to these situations. Like Montel and I typically talk about, new athletes going into the league. There needs to be someone talking to them about how to handle their money, how to handle paparazzi, make sure you got the right folks around you. What is the conversation sitting around the YMCA, sitting around the youth center, sitting around somewhere to talk to these young cats and say, hey, I'm not even going to start. What Carlos, from your perspective, what is those actionable items that we could tell both men and women, maybe to kind of, you don't want to be one of these statistics?
Well, first of all, I think that you're, being courageous enough to step into that conversation. I think that's part of it, because we're not dealing with it, we're not confronting it. But I think you guys are kind of hitting it too. The education around the finances and all that stuff that young men need to have, especially, athletes who tend to squander their money, because they don't have that acumen. I think this is just another one. How about let's add into the playbook not just how to do finances well, but how to date well. As an influencer, as an athlete, let's just talk about how to date well, because you know what? You're not a normie. Okay. I don't think you're a normie. I think
I was trying to figure out where he goes with that one. But come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. Bring it home, because I'm going to argue that one a little bit.
Okay.
Bring it home.
I think an athlete who has some influence, a star quarterback, even in high school, he's not a normie. He doesn't have all the things that everybody else has. Okay. He's got to be a little bit more mindful about himself, because he represents something much bigger. He has a lot more to lose. His risk factor is greater. Mm-hmm. And so he does have to do some things differently. And that's kind of what I think about dating. Is if you're dating as an athlete, especially, or somebody who has some influence, I think you need to consider a little bit more about that person. Okay, do you really want to hook? Do you really want to connect? And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but I'm saying, do you really want to risk by hooking up with that girl? Let's say that you meet at the bar. You can. It could be fine, but there's a little bit more risk for you. Okay, and I would tell that person, you might want to consider that. Because there is more at stake for you. And I like to call athletes like that, they're non-normies. They're people of influence. They don't get. The other day I talked to somebody, a CEO of a company, and he's like, "Hey man, I was thinking about going and doing this thing in Africa, this missionary thing." And I said, "Yeah, I think that's awesome." He said, "The only problem is that I'm at really high risk for kidnapping. So I don't know how we're going to do that." I'm like, "Yeah, you're not a normie, man. You're worth a couple of $100 million. You got to do it differently. You're just not a normie like most of us are." I would say myself, maybe not you guys, but
I agree. I agree. You're not a normie, but that's going to be a hard thing to regulate the younger you are. And the reason why I say that, I mean, still, even in that situation, if you're more cautious and you do everything right, that doesn't negate that the person can lie and you said you did something that you didn't really do. That's the part that we need to figure out. I think you do need to be aware. You need to be aware of your surroundings no matter where you are in, whether it's dating or work or anything. You have to be aware of your surroundings. That's a given. And that comes with maturity as you get older and you understand that. But you're asking, you're saying, if I hear you correctly, you're saying, hey, not only be that, but if I do decide to get a survive, if I have to say that yes, I'm okay on my part. I did everything I'm supposed to do on my part, but that doesn't negate the fact that she could say, I said no in the middle and he didn't stop, or, I lied. Right. She completely lies about the whole situation. The problem, the whole thing with this whole thing is that once that is said, damage is already done to the person that did everything right. Regardless. Right. Whether they find him innocent or guilty at the end, if he's innocent, damage is already done. No matter what the scenario is, especially in the athletes and the entertainment world, damage is already completely done. And now that we're in the age of everybody needs to know now with Twitter and your mugshot is up is already, you haven't even been questioned by police. Everything is already done and you're guilty by perception.
Yeah.
And then if you happen to be found innocent, they may chastise the woman a little bit. We're talking about Tupac's situation, right? We all remember that. We were all back in those days.
His situation. I toned from work that day.
Totally. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So about his situation, no matter if we believe it or not, he was already considered being guilty by the court. The court's eye. Right. Even the public opinion was saying, no, he didn't do that. There's no way he didn't have to. He was still, damage was already done. He was considered guilty.
Yeah, totally.
So can you imagine now a young man that's just fresh out of Mississippi, he goes to this school, he doesn't have the resources to fight anything. So you're like, and let's be honest with you, when it comes to those situations like that, athletic departments distance themselves from you right away, unless you're the star about to go to the NFL. Otherwise, they distance themselves. They don't want to get caught up in the PR press. They don't want to have anything to do with you.
Right.
You got to do with that. So you're dealing with young men with no financial resources. The school that he was in has no back, that's not going to back him up, or they're not going to have anything going on. You're leaving up to a public defender or somebody, hopefully, to investigate to find that this is right or wrong. And even let's say he was found that he was correct, he was okay, he did everything right, he's not guilty. Damage is already done. His perception on that campus is already shot. Him going to another school is already shot because nobody wants to deal with that situation. Him going back to his neighborhood, he'll be accepted, but getting a job is kind of already shot because the perception that you are a rapist or someone you sexually assaulted somebody is already there.
Yeah.
That part, what I'm saying, is so damaging and uncontrollable. We can't control any of that. When her saying what story she makes up, unless you videotape it or have her sign some type of disclosure agreement, right? That's the only way you can protect yourself.
And that I see I kind of see that as maybe a little bit of a separate issue. Like, one is proactive. What can we do about being proactive with these young men? And you know how it's the same thing with the finances. We can be proactive with these athletes before, which kind of the NBA has done. They've done a pretty good job with that, right? Really integrating financial education into these rookies, man. Like, I think it's mandatory now, which is really good. We should be doing that in college. We should be doing that in high school, I think. And I don't see relational education. Honestly, I don't see it any different. I see it more difficult for young men because we're all hopped up on dopamine all the time, right? As a young man, we're excited, man. We're always, so we're not really thinking with our brain. We're thinking with our limbic system, which is our child brain. Our prefrontal cortex hasn't even completed yet, right? It doesn't complete until our mid-20s. So we're not even fully an adult yet. So I get it. We're a lot more compulsive or impulsive, I should say, right, as young men. But the education should still happen, I think, as a proactive movement, right? How can we
Yeah.
start to help these young men become more aware of what's out there?
Yep.
Because today, what's out there is really scary, man. I mean, these young men could lose all of it, you know, and you're so right. And then I think the other part of it is, okay, they can be as proactive as they can be. They can do all the right things that you said, Montel, and it still can happen. Now, what do you do? Like,
Now what do you
there
do?
has to be
Now
those
what do you-
protective things in place for the now what, because all you can do is here. All I can do is tell a young man, I'm going to give you these, you know, I'm going to educate you in these areas, make you self-aware, increase your self-awareness, okay, of how to handle yourself and take personal responsibility to limit the chances of you getting jacked by somebody. Okay. That's all we can do is
Good point.
limit it,
Good
but we cannot completely avoid it. That's impossible because you can't
Gotcha.
control what they're going to do, but you can control what you do. You know, so
Yeah.
it's honestly, look, it's almost like this. I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, but these things that are happening are kind of crazy. But I would even say for a young man, maybe going out with somebody, I would say, do you have people? Do you have another brother that knows where you're at, knows what's going on? I'm talking about accountability. That's all I'm
Right.
saying is, look, just let your guys know what's going on, where you're at and what you're doing. Okay. And because today, I just think you have to do that. It's a different time we're living in now, you know, and so the personal responsibility part is, what can you do? I'm not talking about good or bad. In my case, in the way I talk to young men is, what can you do maybe that is healthier, you know, for yourself? What do you think might be a healthier choice? You know, it doesn't mean that that's bad, but is there a healthier choice that you can make, you know, in this situation, you know, that might limit maybe something from happening, something from going on? I mean, if you're a young man, I don't know if you guys, I once had a pastor tell me one time when I was like 21, 22 years old, I asked this girl out at my church. I kid you not, man. My pastor said, I heard you were dating so-and-so. And I said, yeah, man. And he's like, run. I went, what? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Run, man. You know? But he knew her. He knew what she was about. And he said, Carlos, you don't have any idea of what her world's about. And I'm afraid for you. I'm concerned about you. And guess what? I didn't listen. You think I'm going to listen to him? Come on, man. I mean, she was, you know, whatever, man. I'm not going to, and I didn't, and I got burned. Okay. It was horrible. It was destructive. So, you know, I get it. We're not going to, I learned a little later, you guys, but I still think we need to be proactive as much as we can be. And it might save some, but you're right, Montel. We have to establish a now what though. There has to be, we got to do something when somebody does all the right things and still doesn't work. Right. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. Go ahead, Montel, and then I'll close.
No, I agree. I think education is always best. I think if you're right, if we're proactive in educating, at least we give them the power of know and know what to expect and what's out there.
Yes.
And then,
absolutely.
You know, if you choose to cross that line with the power of know, then you got to know that you're taking the risk of a situation.
That's right.
About connecting. Yes, we have.
Very good
Absolutely.
point. Very good. I mean, a mutual friend of Montel and I has this statement: "Each one, reach one." Right, and it kind of was very similar to what you were saying just now, Carlos. Right, we can't. You can't go out there and try to boil the ocean and try to solve everyone's problems, but at least have that dialogue, have that conversation. I think this is something that still needs to continue to happen, because I know that there are folks either listening now or going to be watching later, going to be they're going to have different opinions, right? There's going to be pros and cons to the dialogue that we've had right now. So I would love to go deeper in kind of a more intimate session, talking about, again, what to do, what not to do, just what kind of conversations to have. And again, obviously we haven't talked about no sports scores at all. This is that social impact piece, right? This is a starting pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers. They got caught up in a situation. Now he's no longer with the Dodgers. He's pitching in Japan. I bet he wants to come back to Los Angeles. Yeah. Maybe now he can, now that his name is starting to get cleared. As you see, I got it here on the screen. They have both settled all outstanding litigations. What's his name? Trevor Bauer has not paid any money directly to Ms. Hill, and now he can focus completely on baseball. So we're going to continue to watch this story from Team No Sleep's perspective. Carlos, again, want to be cognizant of your time. I know you got clients coming in. Tell people.
Yeah, I got to run in a sec here.
Okay, just tell people.
I got to run in a sec here. Let me just say one more thing. I mean, didn't somebody just get back in the NFL Network recently?
Mike Arvin?
After that whole thing happened?
Mike Arvin, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's too easy, you guys. It's too easy for this to happen, right? And so, hey, this was great, though. Thank you guys for letting me just jump in for a second, right? And connect with y'all. I love listening to you when I can. It's I like when you guys bring a little bit more of this into it, but man, I almost get a lot of my, I get a lot from listening to you guys and what you guys have to say. So, I appreciate you letting me jump on you guys, and maybe, we can do it again. But thank you guys. Montel, thanks, man. Good meeting you.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Likewise.
Carlos, be good, man. Love the hat. And look at it.
All right, see you guys.
I told you I'm waiting for the bus to run. I'm waiting for the bus to run.
He will. He will. It's all good. Later, brother.
All right.
See, there we go, man. We get into it around here. We get into it. We little bit of a deviation. I was getting some text messages from folks, just saying, what y'all talking about. But again, these are the conversations that don't happen as much as they need to happen. Yeah, we went kind of long-winded, but again, some of the discussion need to happen, and again, hopefully Trevor's going to be all right. Hopefully the young kid down the block who maybe gets caught up in this similar type of situation has some better responses as well. But what you got, man?
What's even crazier than that, man? I mean, I think you got to look at every rape. I mean, almost like every rape case has happened in the last 5 or 6 years from these. In college, which it happens a lot, and I'm not downplaying anything. I think that's a horrible thing to go, but you have to question every last one, especially when it happens to athletes or people that are influencers on campuses, and now in high schools too. I've seen limited to colleges, on high schools and colleges, because now all those need to be peeled. The onion needs to be peeled back to find out what really happened. Like we were talking about, I think. Wow, I don't want to say his name. Was it Matt Ariza? The kicker, I forgot the name. Was it Matt Ariza for San Diego State?
For San Diego, yeah, Ariza. Yeah.
Ariza. So Ariza, I mean, look at his situation, man. Like his whole life, what he worked so hard to do and what happened got turned all the way upside down by accusation that they found out that was wrong. How do we? And Ariza he was blessed at San Diego State, and all the police did their due diligence to do that. But I'm talking about what happened to the brothers and sisters that it doesn't happen to.
Yeah,
like there is the due diligence.
They don't have the resources. Don't have the
the
police or everyone around them working really in their favor. Yeah.
So that tells me right there, how many people are wrong. And I'm very passionate about it because I send a lot of men of color to small rural areas where it's predominantly white. Right. Mm-hmm. Let's be 100% honest. Their parents don't like them messing with men of color. They just don't, it's appalling, and then it happens, and then he's been charged with rape or, or sexual assault, and then they go to jail, and then there's no one to help them. Again, like the school backs away. They don't have resources at home, that they're living off the scholarship money and the little bit of money they got while they're there, and then they go to jail, and then they lose their scholarship, they lose the opportunity to play football. They hopefully get off. Hopefully the court finds them innocent or guilty, whichever one it goes. Hopefully they get off, and then they can't go back to the school they were just saying when they got a scholarship. You try to apply for another school, and they'll say, well, why'd you get kicked off the team? Well, I was charged with a sexual assault. What school else is going to deal with that? So you're still left to go back home and try to figure this out, and your life is ruined based on a lie. And I think that happens more often than people think. People may be on just they're just talking about some isolated incidents. No, it happens so often. I guarantee there's 10 or 12 that happen a year, every year, just with football. I can't imagine with basketball, baseball, wrestling, lacrosse, and so on and so on and so on. It happens everywhere on every campus, and it's funny that there's nothing in place to kind of peel back the onion and really find out the truth on some of these kids, especially the smaller school you got, the lower the budget is, so the less help they got.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is unfortunate, but man, I think that was great having the doc on, kind of giving from a different perspective. I hate that it's like that, man. That the situation's like that, but it's funny that these young entertainers and athletes all alike, they're basically running themselves in a situation where they can get caught up at any time, and it doesn't have to be true, right?
Doesn't have to be
The
true.
story, the narrative does not have to be true at all.
Yeah. We've
It's
talked about
pretty
it
scary.
before too. Again, I mean, I think it goes back to just, man, you got to have the right folks around you. You really
Yeah,
got
but
to have some
how do you
solid
determine?
folks.
But let's keep it real between me and you. Listen, how do you determine that? Let's say me and you, we at a club, right? You're at the
It's the whole
club.
it's the whole who is it? It's the whole Drake line. I can't have no new folks around me. Right.
That's
Right.
a
That's
terrible
pretty
thing
much
to
it.
do.
I got it's got to be the old school folks that have been with me through thick and thin, but I can't be none of these new folks, these new acquaintances that I'm gonna
Okay.
keep with. That's how I am about it.
Okay, let's break it down. Let's take you back to when you was 21 years old and you're at the club and you're dancing and
Watch
you
out
see
now.
the little
Yeah,
girl
listen.
in the corner.
My dad is
You know what I'm
online watching
saying?
around. What you want me to say?
We're talking about us. Yeah, we can preach that mantra and say, hey, we just don't hang out with the people that we know and keep our circle really small. But you're at the club and you see a little lady looking at you while you dancing and she wants to dance with you and all that good stuff. How are you supposed to tell a person between the age of 17 and 21 to not be interested in this girl? Make sure you kind of do this thing, this whole completely different way, and trying to figure it out. And at the end of the day, even if you're very cautious, even if you do ask all the correct questions, even if you're like, hey, and it begins to be consensual. It's a consensual thing. You both gonna be cool. She can flip the script because you say, all right, it's over when you got to go. I'm gonna get some rest. I got practice on it. If she's pissed off about that, she can say whatever she wants and put you in a bad situation.
Been caught up in those types of situations before. Me and some homies, and again, it was a lot more challenging back in the day before social media and before everyone had smartphones. Right. It was word against word right then. Right. I mean, no, it did happen. No, it didn't happen. No, you didn't caught up. Right. It was a lot different when you didn't have instantaneous proof all over the world with a video or audio or whatever the case may be.
If you recorded it, that's if you recorded it. What if you didn't? I mean, what if you just said that you left the club together and now all of a sudden, and don't get me wrong, people don't make my mistake. My comments, rape is wrong and it's appalling. No one should have to do that. But I'm saying in a situation like this, a female or the opposite, the person that's being attracted to the athlete or the entertainer is at an advantage to take advantage of you in any kind of way they want to, even when the situation is consensual. When the relationship, right when it becomes physical in any form or fashion, they have the advantage to take advantage. They have the advantage to do all these things, to lie about you, take advantage of you, not just spreading the rumor, but now bring criminal charges against you. And when you're in that vulnerable stage of being a college athlete or an entertainer in some way, you can lose everything. Millionaires can figure it out.
It's almost like you're saying, and I think I agree with this. Almost like you're saying that person in the spotlight has to be on guard and ready for the worst all the time, and almost unfortunately expect the worst, regardless of whatever relationship, whatever situation they're getting in, just to protect themselves today and tomorrow.
Matt Ariza was number what? Draft pick in the second round, kicker going to the Buffalo Bills as a training camp, and everything went to hell. Yeah. So that tells you, yes, you got to be at all time, on your P's and Q's at all time. You got to evaluate the situation. And like I said, it's almost like you have to have them sign a consensual form and videotape your actions with that person nowadays.
That's tough, is sad. Man. I could not grow up in today's world, and I could not be someone in that kind of spotlight. I could not be a D1 athlete who has to live through all that. I mean, that just has to be so much more of a burden, because you got to worry about all that. You got to perform in class if you're an athlete, student athlete. You got to perform in class. You got to perform on the field or on the court, and then you got to be cautious of who you sit with, what you sit with, what you say. I mean, it's just, man, that's just too much. That's just too much for me.
No, I agree. I think it's a lot, and I think that's what they have to deal with. But I mean, also, if the legal system would work the way it's supposed to, it would curb a lot of that, right? Mm-hmm. You wouldn't be allowed to do, because if you lied on me, you're gonna be charged, right? You'll be charged with some crime. Nowadays, as we've seen the ones we've seen, they haven't been charged. They kind of just disappears. At least we don't know about that. If they are charged, we don't know anything about it. Doesn't get front page news or anything. The sad part of it, again, you're already damaged once that allegation comes out. Period. You know, that you're already damaged. I don't care who you talk about, who you do. You know, any situation, you know, someone that's been in a sexual assault, that's always in your mind and always a topic. Now, can you imagine that person? Let's say that your person doesn't play any sports at a high-powered school, but he played and these things happen. How do you go get a job? Even if you don't make it to the league, how do you go get a job after something like that? Because the public perception is already there. And, you know, and I know, can you imagine a woman that has had an issue and that really happened, someone really assaulted her, and you have to interview with this person, and you really didn't do it, but she don't care because the person that did it to her said he really didn't do it.
No, that's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, the whole cycle, how it goes about. I mean, and I agree with the doctor. We have to educate, you know, all these people, because I think it can happen to women too. Same scenario can happen to women. We need to preach to all these people and say, you know, you need to be aware of your surroundings and the people you're with. And even when you're with that person, unfortunately, you're still setting yourself up. You're still leaving vulnerability for you to get caught up, regardless of the situation. Consensual.
We're gonna spin up Team No Sleep Consulting Services. Right, we're gonna have one-on-ones just to make sure that. Because these are just conversations that it's hard to break down really and try to be generic and try to be safe. But, you know, really, I think just getting deeper into the discussion and kind of, you know, like my dad was saying here, the conversation needs to be repeated at a later date, right? This stuff just needs to keep happening, continuing to having these conversations. So it just gets ingrained in folks' minds. You tell people 3 times and it sticks, right? Turns into a habit, all of that stuff. But hopefully folks thought it was valuable. Right, to have Dr. Martinez on talking about this. We went a little bit deeper than we typically do about some of these things, but hopefully there was value in that. And then this Trevor Bauer situation, we'll see how this all works out. Maybe he'll get on a plane, come back to California, throw a fastball. He ain't gonna. I know. I'm just throwing. He's not gonna.
I mean, I wish him the best. I'm glad he got the money.
He probably getting paid enough.
Yeah, I believe you know, his days in the Major League Baseball probably won't have to be.
His days of
that. All right. And the crazy part, it's the truth to a lie, so it's unfortunate. So
all right. So we went long on that. We had a couple of other stories. I want to be, and I always say I want to be cognizant of time, and there aren't as many other pressing sports stories this week, which again, from our perspective, is good because of the way our agenda works. But I do want to again ask about what I hinted to you before, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it because I'm tired of hearing about it, but I just want to get perception of the folks that are listening and watching and yours. Is the NFL paying too much attention or downplaying or overemphasizing celebrities that come to NFL games? Are they taking the focus off of the game and off the competition and being more in awe or more in tune with Swift is up in the box, so we're gonna switch over to her, right? I'm hearing all the players saying, "Listen, pan to him once or twice, right? But then let's get back to the game. Let's focus on that." And all these analysts and all these folks that are on the Foxes and the CBSs and the ESPNs and everywhere else talking about that more than breaking down the game. I was pretty tired of all that Sunday. I was really tired of hearing all that Sunday, but I just want to hear your perspective. Because again, I think the NBA does it really well. They'll pan over to somebody in the seats, boom, and then get back to the game. But let me hear your thoughts.
Why is the NFL concerned about that when that's the network's issue? That's the network. That has nothing to do with the NFL. The networks are flashing the cameras. The networks are commentating on it. So the NFL needs to have a conversation with the networks and say, hey, you need to chill out on doing all that stuff, you know. But to me, I don't know why the NFL is pissed off about it, because that brings you more views, right? Kansas City, so many people watch that Kansas City game because they want to see Taylor Swift. So, I mean, so what? Talk to ESPN, talk to ABC, talk to NBC, CBS, and say NFL needs to send them a memo and say, hey, You guys need to concentrate more on the game and still focusing on the celebrities that are there at the game because it's taken away from our entertainment factor on the field.
Yeah.
That's simple. That has nothing to do with it. NFL is not doing anything wrong. If they want that to do, like, just send them a memo and tell them. I think it's pretty much that easy. I mean, to me, this is a conversation that shouldn't even be had. That's a conversation the NFL should be like, you know what? Hey, let me send this memo over to them. Go do it, and we're straight.
Unfortunately, because there were so many women watching, which is a new audience for them, they're going to keep panning as if she is the 12th player on the field.
I don't mind it. I mean, me personally, I don't mind it. If that's what that takes to get them more viewership, to increase people watching TV and watching the game, pan to her 3,000 times. Matter of fact, have a camera in the corner focusing straight on what she's doing, how she reacts while the game is going on.
have a camera in the booth with her. I tell you what,
if I was to receive that letter from the NFL, I would tell them to go kiss my behind. No, we're gonna do what we're gonna do. We're gonna announce this game because our viewership is up 12%, and most of the demographic is by women or young women that like Taylor Swift.
Okay,
bro, this is not an argument, man. Like this is something stupid. NFL just wants to have their name in the limelight because nothing's really going on during the season. It's exciting, but Taylor Swift as of right now.
Now look, you and I are gonna be at the Super Bowl. I will say we're gonna be there. If she rolls up on us, I'm gonna have the camera and the microphone ready. So you do be ready just in case we need to get that content.
I'll talk to her. Man, she a young kid, bro.
Hey, tall boy, you in the audience, you want to come with us to the Super Bowl? I know you a frequent Super Bowl attendee. Come on, brother, we going.
I think it's cool, man. To me personally, them talking about it all the time and doing that, but them panning to her, I didn't see no problem with it, to be honest with you. Like I said, have a camera that's watching her reactions and all that stuff and saying, we're excited that she's here supporting the game. I think it's going to bring new viewerships and other celebrities coming to the game. It's funny, how the NFL have a problem with it, but they were able to do it when they were focusing on Deion in Colorado and all the stars over there at USC. There was no problem. There was no issue. You know, they were about, oh, hey, there was such. And they even filmed. As a matter of fact, what was so crazy, they even go over there and interview the celebrities during the game.
That's true.
But yet all of a sudden now there's a problem.
Out there on the sidelines, yep.
Yeah, man, come on, man. NFL just needs to call the network and say, could you guys handle this a little bit better and call it a day? And this shouldn't even be a story. This is the dumbest thing that ESPN has ever ran as far as stories, as far as I'm running. The dumbest. They can quote me on all that. Yeah, Stephen A. Smith, the head of ESPN.
Y'all, you know how I feel about Stephen A. Smith, so I got no concern about. And again, here's this next story of Beckham talking about. So I just my question and the reason for bringing this up is, again, is there too much attention being put on one, this man's relationship with who he's dating right now? You know, going to the game, let's watch the game. Yeah, pan over to her once or twice. That's all good. But let's keep the main thing kind of thing. But
all right, so let me ask you a question real quick before we go. If you was Fox and your viewership went up like that much, 12%, showing her,
don't trip. Don't worry about me. I'm gonna get that Taylor Swift money if she.
Exactly. So I mean, why are they having any issues with it, man? It's not an issue. Like I said, since you think it's taken away from the entertainment of your product, then you go holler at the network and say, hey, can you guys tone it down or do something a little bit different so that way it doesn't take away from the game and all that stuff and blah blah blah.
Hey, I'm gonna be bringing her hot dogs and whatever she wants. You want another drink? Hey, I got you. Don't.
Hey, if I'm Fox, I'm like, man, I can't wait till she go to the next game because we're gonna be on her all day. Matter of fact, I want a Taylor Swift camera. It should be a camera on Taylor Swift.
Don't worry about me. I'm gonna make sure she all right. I make sure she get okay. Yeah. We gonna move on. Montel, take us home, brother. We did what we had to do. Take us on home, man.
Absolutely, man. Like the doctor said, I think it's really important for us, one, to get comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. Obviously, man, everybody keep God first. He's first in my life. He should be in yours. Say your prayers. And look forward to this next week. We out.
Y'all be good to yourself now. Tell somebody. This is where it happens. Team No Sleep.